Everybody, I'm Jennifer from Gen W Arts, and in today's video I'm going to try a medium that I really hated as a child and haven't used since, and that's oil pastels. So yeah, that's gonna be interesting. Anyway, hope you're gonna enjoy this video, and let's get started. Hello everybody! First of all, today's video won't be a product review per se, because I feel I don't know enough about oil pastels, nor do I have real experience with them. So I feel I can't give a proper review. But I bought this neat set of 72 colors of Mangio Gallery Soft Artist oil pastels, as they were cheap, but also from what I heard from other artists were real good oil pastels. So I felt they were perfect to get started with for me. I do have some Senneliers, but I wanted to build confidence with a cheaper brand before I will go and play with those. Mangio is a Korean company, and this set costed me 72 euros, that is €1 per crayon. They are very soft and pigmented, and I really liked the assortment of colors in this set. I'm not sure how light fast they are, as there isn't much info on that, but Caran d'Ache and Sennelier do make light fast oil pastels, but these cost quite a bit more. I decided I wanted to work on a paper with a lot of tufts so I can layer a bit. So I went with the Constantly Tinted Touch paper, which is also excellent to use with soft pastels and colored pencils. I chose a tan middle tone color so I can draw my whites easily on it. Then I prepare my paper by taping it on a drawing board with masking tape. This will keep my paper nicely in place and will prevent buckling and damage to the edges. I wanted to draw something really colorful with these pastels, so I went through my own photographs and found a nice photo of a bongo I shot in Burgers Zoo in Arnhem some years ago. It had some real nice lighting from behind, so I felt it was perfect to try my pastels on. The background wasn't too exciting on the photo, so I came up with my own idea for that. I started with quickly filling in the background with a dark carmine color and a dark blue violet color, and wanted to see what would happen if I approached oil pastels as how I work with colored pencils, and got my Zested out and started to blend the colors together with a brush, and well, wow, it was like super satisfying. The crayon moved so easily, it almost felt like it had turned into paint. So that this worked got me super excited to see how far I could push it with details and such. Immediately I felt the confidence I could make this work with this medium. This medium that I've been avoiding like the plague because I had such bad experiences with it back in school. When the layer is dry, it is very easy to layer on top of it again with an oil pastel to get even richer color. I tried to see if I could pick up some color directly from the pastel with some zested on a brush, and that worked very well as well. Though halfway this painting I stopped doing that, as I found that the zested creates a dry film on your pastel. So I could peel it off luckily and get the pastel to work again, but I worried it may dry out the pastel in the long run, so I stopped doing it. I found out later that you can use linseed oil on oil pastels to get the same painterly look. Linseed oil won't dry out your pastels, but I don't have linseed oil, so I proceeded to use zested for this painting, just not to pick up pigments from my pastels anymore. Instead, I went and scribbled some color on the masking tape to the side and picked up the color with brush and zested that way, if I want to paint some finer details in. This worked greatly too and wouldn't damage the pastel. When I moved on to the bongo, I started out by laying down the darkest darks and my whites. Made sure I got my eye lines in first. The sketch I had traced in with white chalk tracing paper, by the way. I am trying not to use too much black to prevent colors to become muddy and dull. So far I have only used black to line out the eye and on the places that are really dark, such as the nostril and the lip line. For the snout, I used blue tones for the underpainting and blended out with zested. Also, I want to note that it is perfectly fine if you use oil pastels dry without any thinning medium. I have watched a couple of videos of very skilled artists that use oil pastels dry and do blending with their fingers or Q-tips, and those pieces were really amazing. I myself just don't feel confident enough to use them that way yet. But I suppose that makes this medium very versatile. It can even be used with oil paints. Also, normally oil pastel remains tacky and rubs off your painting if touched. However, when you use zested to blend with it, it becomes dry to the touch and hardly gives off pigment from the paper. So far, I really had a lot of fun creating with these oil pastels. These feel so different as the ones I used back then in school, which felt too clumsy to draw with at the time and were a lot more transparent. It probably has to do with the quality of those pastels and, probably for the most part, my inexperience in traditional art, as that was nearly 20 years ago. I do still have that set of oil pastels and recently checked if they still work. Oil pastels can dry out at some point in time. They felt a bit dry, but still was able to draw with them, so maybe it will be interesting if I gave them another try sometime to see if they feel any different from now that I got a whole lot more experience as a traditional artist. But my first impression on the Mangio Gallery oil pastels is very positive. In fact, I really look forward to trying my senneliers out, to see how much they may or may not differ from these Mangio Gallery ones in quality, especially since there is such a price difference between the two. But I honestly want to work with oil pastels a lot more because of the fun I had with this piece. I feel like it could become one of my favorite mediums next to color pencil, watercolors and sculpting. The Mangio are very soft and creamy, have a very strong pigment payoff, and every color I used so far is very opaque, which leads me to believe there is some titanium white mixed into the colors. They blend super well with zested solvent, and so far the colors have been very vibrant. I heard with some brands, which are even softer, such as the senneliers, you can even make impasto art, but with the Mangio Gallery you can't really. Colors lay down even and don't leave a lot of texture. I suppose it's just not soft enough. So if you're looking to do impasto styled art, then these oil pastels won't do the trick. The Mangio Gallery oil pastels come in sets of 12, 36, 48, 72 and 200. They are available on Amazon. I'm not sure if you can get colors separately, as I haven't seen any listings of separate colors. Also, keep in mind if you plan on getting a set of the Mangyo pastels that you go for the gallery's soft oil pastels, as that is their artist quality range. They also got a student grade one that are not as good, but which people do often confuse for the artist grade one. The student grade one is called oil pastels for the artist, so look for the gallery one if you're looking for the artist grade one. The price difference is also a good indicator, as the student grade ones are very cheap. But I suppose I would 100% recommend getting these over the student grade ones, as the ones I used the first time were a student grade oil pastel, and those really frustrated the hell out of me. It was so bad that I never touched them again in 20 years. But now, after trying these gallery pastels, I can honestly say I fell in love with the medium and got very excited to use them again and try other brands and explore techniques and all the possibilities that oil pastels have to offer, because this experience was a total day and night difference for me. So if you're like me, new to the medium and are really interested in trying out oil pastels, these are great to get started with. But if light fastness is a concern, then Sennelier and Caran d'Ache offer light fast artist quality oil pastels, which you can get in open stock, but however they are a little bit more expensive than these ones. I also noticed it is a very fast medium, especially when you use a solvent. I can spend weeks on a colored pencil piece, sometimes even months if it's a big one, but with this oil pastel painting I was done within a couple of afternoons. I also really like how detailed or loose you can work with oil pastels and how expressive each stroke can be. You can even use wax-based color pencils such as Prismacolor, Premiers, on top of oil pastels for even finer details if your paper has enough tooth. Or you can gently scrape in fine details with a X-Acto knife or anything sharp, kinda like you do with scratchboard art. There are just so many possibilities. It also helps to work on a larger format if you plan on doing a realistic and detailed piece, because oil pastels are soft and the core much wider, which you draw with, than a color pencil. It can be a real challenge to draw anything detailed on a surface that is too small in size. For me, it also helped a lot to scribble colors on a separate surface, so I could pick up color with a fine brush and solvent to get finer details in. As for oil pastel surfaces, I think it is best to use a surface with a lot of tooth, such as pastel papers. Consommé taintes, Pastelmat Ewart papers and even gesso boards are all good choices. It can even be done on canvases and wood. Sennelier also makes special paper that was especially made for their oil pastels as well. Also, if you work with oil pastels, you will most likely need to clean your pastel tips frequently, especially when you color on an already laid down layer. I keep a fresh paper towel to the side to wipe the pastels clean whenever they get too contaminated with other colors. This way you prevent getting multicolored strokes or even mud. Because getting rainbow puke on especially your white marks isn't very nice. I think that was the only thing that got annoying to me over time, that I had to wipe the pastels clean so much, pretty much after each use. Otherwise, there is nothing I can think of that I didn't like about using this medium. To my surprise, I hardly used up any of the colors, as a little went a long way. I think I only had to tear the wrapper of two colors, the dark carmine and the blue violet, which I used the most in this piece. But even those aren't even halfway gone yet. I guess it may also be because I don't use them dry and in thick layers. The only dry layers I kept was the final layer, so I suppose that helped preserving the pastels. I guess the softer ones may be used up faster. Also, with oil pastels, the fat over lean rule applies, just like oil paint. That means that you can start with a thinned down layer and go with thicker layers each new layer. To go thin over fat won't work so well. With oil paints, it would mean that the painting may crack because the fat layer underneath dries slower than the lean layer on top of it. So that is never a good idea. So you either go fat all the way or you go fat over lean. I mentioned it briefly before, but going on top with colored pencil works really great too. I sadly didn't have enough space on my memory card, so I didn't record it, but I used a white Prismacolor Premier at the end to draw in the animal's whiskers around the nose. And it worked great, as there was enough tooth left and the pencil is hard, so it pushes excess pastel away. I suppose other wax pencils will work just as well. I am not sure about the polychromos, as those are much drier and not waxy at all, but I may test that out on the next piece. At the end I wanted some gold accents in the painting, so I used a metallic gold Sennelier oil pastel. You could use oil paints as well, but I didn't have those, so I had to do with that. I have also seen other artists use acrylic markers as small highlights on top of oil pastel, but I question if that is really an option, since oil pastels typically stay tacky and acrylic paint dries fast, so you kinda get that lean over fat idea, so I do not recommend it. I think it's better to use oil paint instead if you really want those bright highlights. Or just to thin out a bit of white oil pastel and then to paint it on. At least if you look to preserve your painting or sell it or display it. Now that I tried this medium again, I'm kinda surprised it is such an underdog in the art world. At least that's what it feels like to me. It is not nearly as popular as, let's say, dry pastels, for example, or even colored pencils, while it is such a fun and versatile medium to use. Maybe it is just that a lot of people like me had bad experiences with it as a kid, or because they have been thought of as just crayons. In my case, it was because I got to use a low quality product offered to me at my school and not being taught how to use them properly, and not knowing the possibilities it has to offer that made me dislike oil pastel so much. But I'm honestly happy I gave the medium another chance, because it's such a fun and amazing medium to work with. I just genuinely hope a lot of artists will get to experience how wonderful this medium is, because I really feel like I missed out on a super fun medium to create art with for all those years. Anyway, we are almost at the end of the video. Maybe one day, when I feel I am experienced enough with this medium, I will do a proper product review of the Mangio Gallery oil pastels, but today was more of a first impression sort of video. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a like. If you'd like to see more of my content, feel free to hit the subscribe button and bell icon to stay up to date. So thank you very much for watching and your ongoing support for my channel, and see you in the next video. Have a good one.